Okay, welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is James Van Hook. James is the head basketball coach and athletic director at Northland Christian School, located in Northwest Houston. He's been an educator and a coach in the Houston area for 13 years. He has this new YouTube channel called Hoops on the Brain that teaches basketball fundamentals. And honestly, that's why I wanted him on so badly today, is I love this new resource that he's made available to students. But today he'll be talking to us about a bunch of different things. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited that the pandemic and quarantine time is where the little YouTube channel got started, and really I just started it to I was having daily Google Meets and Zoom meetings with my basketball players, mostly because I missed them so much. We couldn't be on campus together, have open gyms. The spring is all about open gyms and player development at my school. And I just wanted to connect with them and go, okay, like, I want you guys working on X, Y, and Z. And I went, well, shoot, I've got an iPhone. When you're the athletic director, you get a hand into kind of everything in a little schools like mine. So I did a lot of stuff with iMovie for our school stuff. And I went, well, okay, now I have this iMovie skill. Let's make some player development videos. And then it came into, some topical stuff with other coaches I work with and have relationships came in. And I'm still working on the basketball, like, in-game breakdown type stuff. I'm trying to grow that piece of it too. And it's a small channel. I'm still figuring out what it's going to be, and it may just be a quarantine only project, but it may grow. The fact that you found me through my YouTube channel kind of re-inspires me and reinvigorates that a little bit. So that's exciting. But I wanted to talk about, you look around the country right now and we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and we also have protests going on around race and around law enforcement, and the word crisis came to mind for me. And I've been in Houston for 13 years, and when I moved to Houston, the real estate bubble burst. I've lived through 3 or 4 hurricanes, and now a global pandemic. And now there's actually protests going on in downtown Houston today. I'm up on the northwest side of town, just right before you hit suburban Houston. But we feel the tension here. And a lot of, you look at a lot of these things, like, a lot of people were on the front lines of COVID-19, and a lot of people are on the front lines of the Big Floyd death by policemen. But the rest of us are sort of onlookers and sort of sitting back and going, what do we do in light of this information? What does this say about us? What does this say about me as a person? And you have time to sort of process that. Time kind of stops, and you have this. I think you're a crazy person if you don't see what's going on and sort of take a self-reflective moment. And there's 2 things that I always have come back to when these happen. I think in times like this, you have to, in your own head and in your own heart, develop empathy. We're in Houston, and COVID-19 has not hit Houston the way it has your other major metro areas, your San Franciscos, your Portlands, your New York Cities. And there's people in small rural areas that life has maybe not pivoted very much for them. But we had this great moment as a nation where everybody kind of banded together and stayed home and practiced social distance to protect our elderly and to protect our autoimmune people. And that was beautiful for a little bit, this sort of collective empathy we had for just a little bit, for a couple of moments. And then we got bored, and then we got tired of not going to restaurants, and now here we are. But if you can't look at people losing their lives, people losing their jobs, people working in healthcare being stretched to the brink, and if you can't look at that and go, man, I'm not in that, but I'm with you, and I as much as I can, I feel what you're going through, then I don't think you're paying attention. But the other piece you have to develop is, when negative things happen, you do have to look around at your own life and be grateful for the things that you have, you know? This time has been horrible on a lot of people, but my school shut down at spring break. And as an athletic director, I don't have an off season. I have 2 or 3 late nights a week for 10 months of the year. And I've had my first off season in 3 years. And my relationship with my wife and with my little girl has grown immensely during this time. And so that has been a huge source of gratitude for me. You know, a lot of the people on our street, we've kind of been co-quarantining with them. And we've developed these great new friendships and, you know, gotten to know people that we just sort of saw as passing in the night coming home from work before this. And it makes me stop and be very grateful for a lot of the blessings we have. But, you know, so you have to develop empathy. You have to look at what's going on and go, okay, you know, I see a police officer and I see protect and serve, and I believe that. But to a lot of people that have grown up in different households in different parts of the country than I have, that it doesn't mean the same thing. There's a fear response in that. And I think if we don't seek to understand that, we're only going to continue to have a greater divide instead of being unified. So you develop empathy and you develop gratitude. And then from there, I think you have to take a look around your life and reevaluate a lot of things. And, you know, you'll know this because you're a dad, but there's a lot of stuff in your house that you put there as a temporary holding place that has now become permanent. You know, I dropped my keys here, but one day I'm not going to drop my keys there. I'm going to have this whole new system and this little container, and it never happens. And, you know, this crisis time where we're sort of practicing social distancing and we're at home a lot, you can look around your home and go, okay, I want to make my house more livable. You know, we're doing that at my house. Why not? Why not reevaluate it? But I think even more importantly than that is to reevaluate your relationships. There are people in our lives that we are social distancing from, and it's difficult to say, but that's actually a very good thing. And whatever the new normal is, maybe those people that don't speak positive things into your life and encourage you in your dreams and your goals, maybe they need to stay social distance. And maybe you need to reevaluate the people that support you and the people that are grateful that you're in their life. And then reevaluate your passion. You know, I've started a little YouTube channel because I like being the athletic director, but I love coaching basketball. And so I've looked for outlets for that while I've been kind of stuck at home and with nowhere to be but in my own head. You know, it's given me time to think about every single kid in my basketball program and go, what do they bring to the table? How can I use their ability? And I've actually pivoted a lot of the things we do from a basketball standpoint because I've had this time to look at all my boys and go, okay, we did this and it worked for who we had, but I've graduated seniors. We have some new kids coming into the program, and I want to make the best out of who they are, you know? I think if you're a really passionate coach and a passionate person, you don't enter into this sort of preconceived way of being. You're always reevaluating, how can it be better? How can we be more efficient? How can we bring more people into the mix of this thing we're passionate about? You know, if you start a fire correctly, it's supposed to spread. So how can I make this bigger? How can I involve more people? How can I get more people excited for me about my basketball program and about the athletic program at Northland Christian? But, you know, and then lastly, what I want to leave you with is this time in our nation and in our world. It's you don't realize how taxing it is on your brain and on your body. And you have to take time to rest. Like I said, this is my first off season in 3 years. You know, there've been naps, there've been sleeping late, there've been putting my little one in the car to go get donuts, little things that I don't get to do in my normal day-to-day grind. And again, you know, I circle back to where I started. I am grateful. But, you know, as I look around, I hope everyone in our country and in our world takes a look at both the the tension with race and with law enforcement and with COVID-19, and we develop understanding and care for one another. And I don't want to be silent on that. I want to be a voice that brings people together and doesn't create dissension, but I also don't want to be silent on it. I don't think I can stay silent on it, especially since my basketball program paints with all the colors of the wind. I think to stay silent on this is to betray the trust those boys have placed in me. But yeah, when you can't, I hope these people in downtown Houston protesting, I hope they come home and they care for themselves, whether they're going to go at it again tomorrow at the mayor's office or whatever that is. I hope they don't overextend, because sleep and what rest does to sort of defrag the hard drive. I hope restful people make good decisions during this time where they may be protesting.
Yeah. Well, James, you've brought up a bunch of important ideas here, and so I want to circle back to a few of them. As far as making the most during this COVID time, as well as this Black Lives Matters time, and just it is a time where we're being a little more reflective, where we're thinking a little bit outside of our normal bubbles. And I like that you said we seek for empathy and understanding, and then we need to make sure that we have gratitude. Now, the empathy one is tricky. If you've never left your hometown and you've been in the same culture your whole life, it might be difficult to understand other people's perspectives and point of views. But certainly we have ways that we can do that. Are there any ideas that come to mind for you on things that kids can be doing even from home to better understand other perspectives, other viewpoints, other worldviews and cultures?
I think social media is both a tool and a curse with polarizing events such as this. I think kids need to talk to their teachers and find credible sources that are distributing facts. You look at, I finally just went, okay, how many people have died from police deaths in the last 3 years? And you look at it, and the number, just on a numbers basis, more white people have been killed by police officers in the last 3 years. However, Black people aren't that significant white people are more significant in terms of population percentage than African Americans. So when you look at it that way, the data is more dense that African Americans are, suffer at the hands of law enforcement. And I've found credible data on that. And I think social media and I think the news media, pick your bias, you can find it in today's news media. I think whichever way you lean, there's a news media that'll agree with you, and there's a news media that will offend your sensibilities. And it's really not news anymore. It's people like, you and I having a conversation and either agreeing or disagreeing with each other. That's not news. That's a talk show.
Right.
But for some reason, that's constantly being pushed across in our home as news. So I think kids have to educate themselves. Don't go to .com, go to .edu, go to .org for your facts and for what you can actually consume as fact and not as an opinion from a pundit.
That's really good advice, because I think that's one cool thing about Generation Z, this rising generation, is they grew up in a world where information was at their fingertips. We didn't. We had to learn what a Google was and what YouTube was, and we figured out how to use those.
We still know what encyclopedias are.
Right. Yeah, and a book, like a real book. But kids today, they've grown up with this huge advantage of living in this technology information world. And because of that, I think many of them are already pretty savvy at distinguishing between news and fluff and media bias and things like that. But your advice still rings true. You have to put a filter on that. You have to be able to say, okay, this is coming from this person's perspective, or the left or the right or whatever. And that's a skill that you can develop as a kid that's going to serve you very well as an adult. If you can really go filter through things and try to see both sides, try to see all perspectives, that's one of the great blessings of this movement right now with all the protesting going on, is whether we want to or not, we are forced to think, how do I feel about that issue?
Right. You know, you look at the world we live in, and you can, through sort of a digital life, sit in a silo where you only consume information that agrees with you.
Right.
And I think, I hope one of the blessings out of this time is, you know, there's people, if you live in a major city, there's a protest going on of some kind. There may even be rioting and looting going on of some kind. And you can't, whatever your philosophy or whichever way you lean politically, you know, you can't ignore it. And I hope that does press people to, you know, seek for fact and not just to find the opinion that agrees with their point of view. So I'm hoping the good that comes out of, you know, something so negative like this is, you know, you lift the missile silo up and people actually have to take a 360-degree view of other perspectives, other races, other upbringings, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, I think social media is really helping us do that, because when you see, you know, that my best friend or cousin so-and-so is an idiot because they don't believe what I believe and they're posting it on their feed on Facebook, well, at least for me, I've been, well, why are they an idiot? Let me think about their, you know, what's their history? How come they're thinking so differently about this issue than I am? And so it's at least gotten me to step back and think about things differently.
And you do have to allow voices in your life that are the voice of dissension. The, you know, Tom Cruise movie, The Minority Report. You need those in your life. You know, I'm a white kid that grew up in the suburbs. You know, most things I tend to lean conservative, although I'm seeing the need for more, you know, social programs to sort of bridge the gap and make the floor a little higher for some people. I'm beginning to sort of understand the need for that in society, on a societal basis. But you know, a kid I went to high school with is is Indian and atheist and leans way left. And you know, I actually, but a lot of the stuff he posts and a lot of the stuff I interact with him is not, it's not an opinion out of left field. It's data driven, and he's a doctor, so he has, you know, he has access to a lot of information that I don't, and so I sort of keep him in my digital life to balance me, you know, to continue to bring a fresh perspective to my life. And I think you always need that. I think you need someone that spurs on and encourages the way you currently think, but you also have to be open to what the other side is saying. Otherwise you're, you know, just high-fiving people that agree with you all the time, and you don't grow that way.
Right. Well, okay. So earlier on, you talked about gratitude. And I think as we see different perspectives and understand the situation we're in, gratitude is a good place to go, because who knows if we'll ever have another time in our lives where we're forced to have more time, right? Where we're forced home, where we can develop our own passions and skills. And for some people, that's a huge blessing that's obvious. And for others, it's hard. I'm naturally introverted. And so I like to be by myself. I like to be home. I really love my wife and my 4 kids. And so I want to be with them as much as I can. But other people don't have an ideal home to go to, and they're stuck with people that maybe they don't get along with, or they're stuck alone. And so it can be a much more challenging thing. For those people who this hasn't been a pleasant experience, what can they be grateful for? Or are there things that maybe they should be thinking about and looking towards, even though it's a difficult situation?
You know, that's having to ask me to crawl into someone else's head and sort of look around. You know, our school is not that, we're not in a very wealthy area. We're actually in between 2 Title I schools. And so, you know, a lot of our families, single mom, single dad, or both parents work very, very hard to make tuition work. And, one of I look at what's going on right now, and, I have a lot of young Black kids from single parent families, and I'm deeply grateful for the trust they place in me.
Mm-hmm.
Being a white guy with a buzzed haircut, the trust they place in me is it's not an easy thing for them. But I think if you're one of these people protesting and you've had a really difficult upbringing, I do think you have to Mr. Rogers a little bit and look for the helpers. Look at the people around you. Everywhere I see, it's people that don't look alike, with one voice, with one message. Right. At this very moment, Black Lives Matter is not just being voiced by Black people. There's a lot of different colored fists in the air at city halls and governor's mansions right now. Mm-hmm. And if you can't look at that and think that in some small way that might be moving us forward and be grateful for that, I think you're missing the point of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think everyone has something that they can look at during this time and be grateful for, because we have opportunities that we've never had before. Now, some of those opportunities involve some discomfort and stretching beyond what we're used to. But I think we're going to look back 10 years from now and see the innovation that came out of this COVID period, and see kind of the social change that came from this Black Lives Matter period. And I think we're going to look back and 2020 was an epic year where a lot of good things started. Yeah. And that's why I brought you on the show today, because as you mentioned earlier, I found your little YouTube channel, and it made me so happy to find someone who was making a resource for people to take advantage of this time. If you're stuck at home, you can be stuck at home shooting hoops on your hoop, or dribbling a basketball and learning some of the fundamentals. And so tell me a little bit about that channel. I know you mentioned it earlier, but why exactly did you create it? How can people take advantage of it?
It's my message to my guys, again, with the gratitude thing, from spring break until, in Houston recently, a couple weeks ago, restaurants in Houston just opened up at a limited capacity, 25 to 50%. I'm not sure where we are now. Right. A couple weeks ago at the most. So, my kids were stuck at home, and my message was, okay, if you have a basketball in the house, you're stealing time from people that don't. You have to take advantage of this. I know I have preseason and postseason meetings with my guys every year, and all they talk to me about is the steps they want to take and the role they want to play. All right, steal some time right now. If you've got a hoop in your backyard, oh my gosh, you are swimming in nothing but opportunity to get better. But I was really lucky. I worked with a guy in high school that trained that skills trained me. Mm-hmm. And so when I was left to my own devices, I already had this sort of Rolodex of things I could do on my own. And a lot of my kids don't have that. And I went, okay, well, rather than me just send them a workout on an Excel spreadsheet, or say, hey, when we get the chance to meet face to face in Google Meet or Zoom, let me show you. Let me show you the things that I worked on that helped me take the next step in my game. And then from it's me doing a couple of drills that I grew up doing, but I've take what I'm doing and now do it 100 times. If you want to get better at 3-point shooting, here's how I work off the catch. Here's how I use my jab step. Here's how I use my shot fake, and rep out. Technique is such a big thing for me. And being a good basketball player, it doesn't happen by accident. And even if you're naturally gifted, it takes a really special work ethic to get really good at technique. And the people that can perform at best in games, some people have a really special sort of gene in their head where the moment doesn't bother them. But for the rest of us, we rep our technique, tens of thousands of times, until we can't get it wrong, even when it's a pressure situation. And I made the channel because I didn't want my kids to miss out on that opportunity. And if I could play a role in that, and if I could give them something they could see, that would hopefully just, it was great because the views on my channel are my own players clicking on the player development stuff. It's not the topical stuff, and it's not the breakdown stuff that a lot of your basketball YouTubers do. My best viewed video is the Top of the Key series, where I'm just catching from both sides, attacking left, attacking right, making second moves, pulling up. That's my most viewed video right now. And that's my own guys just going and clicking and going, okay, what am I going to work on today? And I even had my kids send me videos of them working on it. And that was a great moment. Not for me, but just, I was so proud of them for wanting to get outside, wanting to put in that work. And, to coach at my level, I don't have a lot of kids that my phone's not ringing for Division I scholarships. Hey, you got a guy for, Krzyzewski's not calling me, you got a guy, James? That's not happening. My kids, the relationship that we have is what helps us get good out of each other.
Right.
And so, when they click on that, it's not because I'm some brilliant skills trainer or some brilliant coach. They click the link because of the relationship we have. And to see them working on their game, and to see them, getting excited about getting the ball in their hand during a very uncertain time, just makes me grateful for the relationship I have with those guys.
Right. Well, I love that you're giving them something to do. As you mentioned earlier, if they're not doing anything, they're stealing time, right? I love that concept. But I also love that you are doing something, right? So I'm guessing you never had a video series that you published before. Maybe you have, but so you're developing a new skill, you're putting value into the world. And while it might be targeted to your players, other people can take advantage. Certainly we'll link to Hoops on the Brain from this show so other kids can see these videos and work from home. But I want the message to be not just that you can get better at basketball, but look at what Coach is doing right now to develop his own skills. Now you have this new skill set of creating videos, and that skill set is going to serve you really well in life. It's been a similar journey for me. I started by making math videos for my students because I couldn't teach them anymore. We're learning from home, so I started making math videos. And the other classes started asking me to make them math videos, so I made math videos for the whole grade. And at first it was just kids from my school watching it, but then other people started watching it and it became a useful tool. And I thought, man, I should do more stuff with YouTube. And now here I am talking to really cool people like you because I was willing to take action. And I think that's an important message for the kids watching this is, sure, follow your passions. If you're working on a skill like basketball or piano or whatever, now's a great time where you have a lot of extra time to work on that skill, but also be looking at developing new skills because you might never have a time like this again until retirement. And so take advantage of that because this is a gift. So Coach, we'll link to your series. Really appreciate you coming on today. If kids want to follow you or ask you questions, do you have any other place that they can connect with you? Do you have any social profiles or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Coach V Hook, and then I'm always 2 social media iterations behind. So I'm not on Snap and I'm not on TikTok. And then so Hoops on the Brain is the YouTube channel, and then Instagram and Twitter I'm at Coach V Hook.
All right. Have you got your first 100 subscribers yet on Hoops on the Brain?
I'm at I think I'm at 49 right now.
All right, so we need to give a big push. Get over to Hoops on the Brain, hit the subscribe button. Because once he hits 100 subscribers, then he can make the dedicated title. So it's called Hoops on the Brain instead of Gobbledygook. So let's get people there now. What a great channel. And certainly we'll link that up. Thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure to talk to you today.
I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.